Hi, my name's Wendy. I'm 48 years old. I had my symptoms onset at age 17 and was diagnosed at age 46. That was when I had my first exploratory surgery. Some of the other unusual pains that I would get were severe pressure and heartburn that couldn't be relieved with anything, no matter what position, pressure, that just, I felt like I was being squeezed in a vice, and it was hot, and I couldn't lay flat. I couldn't get enough air in. I went and had it checked a couple times. I had a couple small pneumos after my second one that was bigger with the chest tube. I didn't like that, and part of it was a fear to go in, and another part was that sometimes the findings were nothing, and I felt like I was going to get belittled, and it was in my head. At age 30, I had my first documented pneumothorax, and a respiratory therapist had said, hey, be careful, watch to see if those correspond with your cycles. Of course, I didn't even know what the word endometriosis was, even though I'm a medical provider with a doctorate degree. Was never taught. I never heard the words. So from then forward, I just dealt with the symptoms. Every month would come, and the pains, and the most surprising pains I'd have is, well, I felt like I was getting my period in my chest before I actually started my period. For some women, they have symptoms every single month. For me, they waxed and waned, and I would have periods of concentrated, intense pain for 3 to 4 months, and then it would regress back, and it was just a nuisance, and I dealt with it. I went for 30 years undiagnosed, with my first symptoms starting at age 17, involving the respiratory system. In the mid-20s, I developed GI and pelvic pain, groin pain, SI joint pain. I had been to the ER and had been to the doctor with numerous complaints about the respiratory system and the bowel system, and everything was always dismissed, and it got to be a point where I stopped going to see doctors because I was told there was nothing wrong, and I was exaggerating and hysterical, and I can envision doctors throwing charts down. I've even walked out before an exam was finished from the mental abuse, and that's part of the delay, was because nobody took me serious and nobody listened. And I just gave up on the system and dealt with it, and figured that when I really couldn't breathe and it got really bad, that I would see somebody. Well, in the last 2 years, before my excision surgery, was when I finally found a GP who believed me and stayed with me. These are some of the surprising things I would get. I would develop pressure under my ribs. It would get heavier and heavier, make it harder to breathe. The fatigue would increase. Then I'd start to get ice pick sensations around my lower chest. And then it would feel like I'm trying to breathe in, like blowing into a flat balloon. Gradually, I'd get more and more gurgling sensations in my chest on both sides. And that would usually lead to me getting very, very shaky, feeling like I was going to pass out, and this wet sensation, and then the ice pick in the back of the shoulder blade, and the nerve sensations up through my chest, my neck, up into my ears. That would be a typical manifestation with the climax. And then literally before I had surgery, within 10 minutes of that happening, by the time I was 47, my period would start. This is really important. What I want the medical community to understand is no symptom is too strange. No symptom is too unusual or rare. No woman with endometriosis fits the typical pattern. Ask them to track their symptoms. Ask them to see if there's a relationship to their cycles. Listen to them. Understand that imaging does not pick things up. Endometriosis should be one of your differential diagnoses that you go through, no matter who you are as a provider. In 2011, Alfano et al. Released information that altered the perspective of women and spontaneous pneumothoraces. The old idea was that it was extremely rare. 3 to 6% of women with spontaneous pneumos actually had endometriosis as the cause. More recently, that ratio has increased to 1/3. Approximately 1/4 of the women that have endometriosis have that occur during the catamenial period, which is 24 hours prior to menses and within 72 hours after. The remaining women suffered spontaneous pneumothoraces throughout other portions of their cycle, but they were noted because of a recurrent condition through VATS surgery that extra 10% of women outside that catamenial period did in fact have pneumothoraces due to endometriosis. A few of the last things I do want to tell providers are that Alifano did a great job at analysis of sensitivity and specificity for certain conditions. Of women who suffered a catamenial pneumothorax and present with symptoms of pelvic endometriosis, again, these can be a broad range of symptoms, it is 92.8% specific for the disease of thoracic endometriosis. For women who simply have recurrent catamenial chest pain and symptoms of pelvic endometriosis is a 97.9% specificity for thoracic endometriosis. It increases slightly when there is repetitive scapular and thoracic back pain related to the cycle, increases to 95.9% specificity. Another thing to talk with a woman about who presents with a pneumothorax would be their history of gynecological procedures. There's a significant increase in the likelihood of thoracic endometriosis being the etiology for the pneumothorax if they've undergone a procedure such as a D&C, a retained placenta, an abortion. My advice is to advocate for yourself. Have a thick skin, I wish I did, and fight because what you feel is real. It may have a variety of origins, but it's real. Before I say goodbye, I want to say thank you to my spouse for being alongside me and walking this journey with me. We never knew that this would be part of our lives. I am most grateful to Nancy's Nook Facebook closed group for the education and support that they offered me to guide me in the right place and help me with education, even though I have a doctorate and I'm a medical provider. My biggest thank is to the Center for Endometriosis Care in Atlanta, where I went cross-country, to the people who saved my life and have given me new hope and a new purpose. I have a few ladies that I would like to reach out to provide their testimony. Joy, Christina, and Heidi. I hope that they're able to share their stories with you as well.